This is Lamestream Lydia. We're here talking to Jaret Reddick, bowling for soup, bowling on behalf of soup, if I'm remembering my lore correctly. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Thanks for having me.
A lot of times we could catch you in England this year. You just did the tour with Les and Jake, which we were there for, which
Mm-hmm.
was wonderful, wonderful time. It was actually my first time seeing you guys.
Awesome, man. Yeah, we had a great anytime you put our two bands in the same building, it's gonna be a great time. And man, that tour could not have gone any better. So glad you caught one.
The big one we're looking forward to, and much like everyone else is, you're going to be back here for Download.
We are indeed very excited to be back at Download for the first time, gosh, in about 10 years. So been a minute.
So you have a lot of those people who are back here from then with their kids, which has to be a weird sight.
Yeah, I mean, we've been together 30 years, so it's kind of something that we see, generations, bringing the next generation to shows has been happening all along the way. And so, we're in our third and fourth generations in some cases, of people bringing their sons and their sons or their daughters and their sons or whatever. So I don't know. We're very lucky in that we have a really loyal fan base, and so that does seem to be a recurring thing.
You see, the cool thing is, it's hard to say this without making it sound like an insult, but you still have that that youthfulness, that youthful stupidity. I think I called it in the article. Like
Yeah, I don't really take offense to that. I mean, that's sort of what we do. I mean, we found our groove pretty early in starting the band and realized that that's who we were and what we did. And I think there's a time in pop punk where all of us were kind of like that, and I think some people kind of went in other directions and did made amazing music. But for us, I don't really know that anybody needed a political record from Bowling for Soup. I don't know that anybody really needed, us to all of a sudden have an opinion on a bunch of stuff and all of a sudden try and have substance to everything it is we're all about. We're a band that you go to for a good time, whether it's, putting us on in the car or, when you're exercising or at dinner, whatever it is, or coming to a show. We're there to make you smile, make you have a better day. And we really, again, I mean, that became our identity really quickly. And yeah, so I take that as a compliment, actually. I think Youthful Stupidity actually is a good name for an album.
coming 2025.
Yeah.
We're gonna get cited for that. So, what would you consider you guys a comedy act, or is it you just an act that has comedy in it? Because I know y'all take the joke seriously in constructing it, but some people aren't really about being called a comedy act.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't mind it. I think that we're a band that does comedy.
Mm.
The songs are certainly structured, but everything else we're doing on stage is ad lib.
I feel like the sheep is kicking your ass.
I mean, sure, some stuff gets recycled if it works, but really, we've never been one to rehearse our banter or anything, because to me that we would find that boring. I certainly understand why bands choose to do that, in making it to where everything goes off without a hitch and you're up there and everything, you do your show and you do it perfect. And for me, it's really the blunders that make the show interesting and fun for us. It's somebody stumbling over their words or painting themselves into a corner on a topic, and then and then feeling the wrath of the other guys. Like I think that's just part of who we are. And so I would think we would be probably as much of a comedy act as would, Blink 182 or the Bare Naked Ladies. I think it probably more of a band that also does comedy, no effects, that kind of thing. But I certainly wouldn't. When social media, or not social media, when streaming became a thing, and the original iTunes first came out, I remember putting, you had to put all these genres and you had to put a subgenre or whatever, and I was just like, just put comedy, why not? And so, I think if one of our subgenres was comedy, it certainly wouldn't hurt my feelings.
It is funny you talk about subgenres because that's a very musical thing. It's not something you connect to comedy. Like this is, I wouldn't even know how to quantify a comedy genre.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, I guess you could do it though. I mean, you could say like there's prop comedy and there's observational comedy, and then there's sort of like the storytellers comedy that are like, the Kevin Hart does a lot of he tells stories. There's a lot of those kind of comedians. Then there's the guys that are like, Mitch Hedberg or Stephen Wright that it's one-liners. So I think you could probably figure out a pretty easy way to put subgenres in comedy. Oh, and there's musical comedy, right? There's guys that stand up and make up funny songs. Adam Sandler does a lot of that, right? So, I certainly wouldn't mind, being classified as a funny artist. I think the problem with it is if we considered ourselves a comic act, then we would be putting ourselves up for sort of a review of our jokes, and to me that gets away from why we're all there. Like we really are there to play songs. The comedy is just bonus. And but certainly for some people it's the reason they come see our band.
Yeah, they're I to be honest, I didn't know much of what you were like from a live standpoint. I just known about you from your music videos. Even from growing up. I didn't have a lot of the references. I just knew you as you were the guy with the hat who got beat up by clowns. It's like, who are those guys? And then we grew up and listened to music.
Yeah, that's so funny. It's funny because you were young enough not to get the references, right? I was just a guy in a hat, and there were clowns. It was like, at the time when we made that, it was Fred Durst getting beat up by Slipknot. But I can certainly understand, when you're a younger guy and you haven't watched all those videos. But so that's funny. I've never heard it put like that, but that's really good.
Yeah, that's also a good point about writing reference humor is if the joke stands on its own, then you don't need the reference. Just the reference kind of makes it a lot more colorful when you think about it.
100%. Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that whole thing is important. It's important that, like, even through that, if you're just thinking about the girl, the bad guys that want video, if you don't know that I'm spoofing an actual video from Stained, you certainly know that I'm spoofing one of those kind of bands, and the jokes all still work. It doesn't really, just because I'm sitting on a toilet, doesn't necessarily, that's funny, right? And it's funny because you're like, oh, because they're always in pain. They look like they're in pain, and he's having a painful poop. But if you get the context of the fact that we're making fun of the Stain video that was all over MTV, by the way, at that time, and you couldn't get away from it, which is why we chose that video. It just makes it more funny. But great point. When the bits stand to their own. I mean, the Almost video, for example. I mean, we're sort of making fun of, not making fun of, but I guess paying tribute to Old School. The movie, when we're doing all of the different things, doing the fencing and the soccer and all of that stuff. that video again stands on its own because it's just funny. But you know, if you get the fact that we're sort of spoofing old school, you know, that's just bonus.
Do you kind of have a different approach for it now? Because now, thanks to the internet, all bits of information are available to you at all times. So if you're kind of harping on something that's happening right now, the joke just gets beaten into the ground. I don't know if you approach it any differently lately.
Man, another fantastic point, dude. I mean, and you're so right. Like it's hard to make a TikTok these days. Like my wife is quite a bit younger than me, and she's pretty aware of, you know, trends and things on TikTok. And I am going to answer your question, but to me, it starts out at this level of just how fast things happen. Because somebody will send me a thing and they'll go, you should do this trend or you should do this video. And she'll be like, you know, people were doing that like 4 weeks ago. Like people are just going to think you're way behind. And I'm like, 4 weeks, you know, but you're so right. Like all of that does get beaten into the ground. So yeah, we have to really kind of go for, you either go like, I guess for us, you know, the last several videos have just been a something that stands alone. You know, we did our killing them with kindness video, which is it features the character Super Rob, which we have a comic book about. It's our bass player as our superhero. We did that was Kill 'em with Kindness, actually. Yeah, that's what I just said. Kill 'em with Kindness. Sorry. And then of course, but then we had Getting Old Sucks, but everybody's doing it. And that one, you know, is us as puppets. And then we have, you know, I Want to Be Brad Pitt, which we just took literally about this dude that just wants to be Brad Pitt. And so, yeah, you know, we're having to sort of get, you know, yeah, you can't really do that whole thing. You know, honestly, we had just sort of done that anyway. I mean, I feel like we had done a couple of spoof videos in a row, and it was getting a little bit tired, so we've kind of tried to stay away from that since really those videos. But every once in a while, I guess, you know, I could see that it might creep back in just because we are a nostalgic band topically. You know, we do talk about movies and things like that. So, but yeah, definitely new material wise, I think we really have to do things that more stand alone, because it does still take a while to get things out into the world. And you know, quite frankly, that's a detriment to you if you're trying to do something, as you said, that's, you know, that's in the news right now.
You've been a pop punk act since the inception of pop punk. A lot of people could argue like you're one of the more important acts in the genre, and I would myself as well. How are you feeling dragging out all these younger acts, like the Vandaliers, who we saw with your tour?
We've always been fans of music, and we're fans of our friends that make music. And so honestly, for me, it's never been about taking out another pop punk band or another pop punk band that we think is going to break or whatever. It's taking out somebody that we feel like is going to make the night great. And like the Vandaliers, for us, we were like, look, it's us and Less Than Jake. You know, they're sort of the kings of ska punk, and we're, you know, we've obviously been around in the pop punk world for a long time. We've sort of got those two things covered. Let's do something different. And let's take the Vandaliers, who are, you know, you see them on the road with Flogging Molly, it makes a little bit more sense, you know. And I've always tried to do that. Keep things to where you know, that there's a largeness to what it is we're doing, and not everything sounds the same in the night. You know, I think that could get boring pretty quick, you know. And so and then as far as like up and coming pop punk acts, you know, I mean, I'm definitely, you know, I love watching it happen. You know, it's super cool to me that we, you know, we all kind of started doing this in the 90s, and then it obviously popularized in the early 2000s, and you know, then sort of had its dip, and it's back, and nostalgic. And now we're all of us that have been around for a long time are touring on albums that are 20 years old and 25 years old, and doing 30-year tours and 40-year tours. And And it's cool that there's still people out there that are, kids that are flying the flag and creating new music, and coming in under that umbrella, and so yeah, I really just love when somebody is, you can tell they mean it, if that makes sense. Like I love when it seems natural, and not forced. And I think fans weed that out pretty quick.
Yeah. Does the 20-year cycle, like people are finding music from 20 years ago. It always seems to be 20 years.
Mhm.
I think that's why it came the 20-year cycle. And because people are finding this now, they've got so much to elaborate on or piece together. It's coming off really unique and different from where it started.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, because you have a lot of the younger bands now are bands that heard this kind of music in the car with their parents, and it's not unlike, when I was a kid, and all of a sudden all these bands came out that were more of like that 70s sort of like rock and roll thing, or even the wave before pop punk, or with the bands, you had like the Strokes, and there that whole, again, we're back to subgenre of those bands that sounded like that. um that was probably around a 20-year thing as well, right? I mean, that was probably like late 70s stuff that they were throwing back to. So
mhm.
um pretty interesting how it all comes down. But yeah, and I think also you have to nostalgia kicks in, maybe, because it's like, when you're 15 and you're listening to somebody and you listen to them every day, and then you sort of get into your life and you're in your 20s and you still go back and listen every once in a while, but at the same time it's like, I'm also doing this, and now I'm getting a job, and then all of a sudden you have kids, and then, but think 20 years later you're 35, and you kind of got your life sort of, at least kind of going in the direction it's going to go. And then this band's celebrating a 20-year birthday, and you're like, hey man, this is an important part of my life, I want to go celebrate that. And so I think that's a big part of it too.
It's kids getting younger finding that stuff as well. 'Cause, I was a little past it when Phineas and Ferb came out, but
Yeah.
which that
Yeah.
that that threw me off when I saw you. I was like, wait, I know this one.
Yeah. And you
Yeah,
didn't really know that it was us.
I didn't. It's that there was like a whole. It just kind of just blew my brain a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's funny to watch the audience, because frankly, most people come in to see us know, because the majority of those coming to see our band, follow us on social media and sort of follow the career and all of that. Now, I'm, again, not saying everybody, which is, again, interesting, because there's Dale in the audience, and you're like, well, I know this band. And then I start singing the song, and you're like, that sounds awfully familiar. And you're like, is that them? And then, and you could see people talking to each other around, like, oh my God, they actually do that song. And then, so yeah, it's a bit mixed. And, but honestly, I probably said this, and I might not, I don't know. I'm sort of in and out of that bit, but sometimes I'll say, this is our biggest hit. And it kind of is. It's definitely the biggest song we do.
Yeah. Oh, it was a great time, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing you back on stage at Download. This is gonna be my first time ever going to Download. So
Okay.
if there's any advice you want to issue to me and anyone else going for the first time,
Everybody, hydrate. Uh, use the loo as early in the morning as you can. Um, and like I said, hydrate. And beer doesn't really count. Drink some water, and make sure you're taking care of yourself, and be have a freaking great time. It's you don't really get lists of bands. Like, Download really does know how to do it, man. And having that list of bands there every day is pretty, it's an awesome experience.
Really hyped for that. You're on the Saturday, I believe.
We are on Saturday. I think that's right.
Cool. That was a good guess.
Yeah.
Totally meant to do that. But
Good job.
yeah, nailed it. So yeah. I is there anything else you wanna add? Anything you wanna say?
No, I'm good. Just everybody, check out the Bowling for Soup tour dates. We might have some more coming pretty soon. There in the UK, and I just very grateful to be doing this as long as we have, and still have an opportunity to come over there and play songs for you guys. So we'll see you guys at Download.
We love you, Jared.
Love you, man, dude. That was a really awesome interview. Thank you, brother.
No problem. It was
Take
nice
care.
speaking to you.
Yeah, man. See you next time.